Hi, this is Chet Gladkowski, and welcome to our time together. We're starting a new series about following Jesus. And I listen to a lot of people. I love to speak and listen and ask questions. I especially love to listen to people as they tell me about their lives. And one of the things I'm hearing is people are looking for answers, maybe to not just the dailiness, but the big questions of life. And the reason we're going to be looking at Jesus is because Jesus, answers the fundamental questions of your life. Those big questions, the things that you're not going to get information about. What is important in your life? What gives meaning and purpose to your life? And Jesus gives really important answers to three of the big questions. The first one is, where did I come from? Am I just pieces of matter, protons, neutrons, and electrons, plus time, plus chance, plus nothing equals boom, Chet? No, I don't. If that is true, then there's no meaning, there's no purpose, there's no love. What I have as love and what I have as truth is nothing more than molecules sort of vibrating in my head and the chemicals coming together in a certain way, firing off my neutrons and neurons. If that is true, then where I came from has no meaning. And how can I change? There is a tremendous need in people, as whether it's spoken or unspoken, and we see a lot of it being spoken, some of it being yelled at, of how I need to change. People talking about their need to get off of the big things in life, whether it's pornography or alcohol or drugs or some kind of addictive chemical or behavior pattern, people having guilt and shame. They're saying, I need to change. Jesus says he can give us power and purpose and change. And thirdly, where am I going? Where is there in eternity? If all there is these few years, then let's just party. It doesn't matter. It also doesn't matter what I do, because I can do anything I want. I can hurt you because you're meaningless and there is no purpose in life. Jesus addressed this when he went and called some of his first followers. And we're going to be looking at this today in Luke chapter 5, verses 2 and 3, where Jesus saw at the water's edge two boats left there by the fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. Jesus creates a captive audience with Simon. He gets in his boat. He initiates the conversation. He initiates the relationship. And at this point, he is just a follower. But when he had finished speaking, Jesus said to Simon, put out into the deep water and let down the nets for a catch. Simon answered, Master, we've worked hard all night long and haven't caught anything. But because you have said it, we're going to do it. Now, I can just imagine what was going on in Peter's head and Peter's heart. He might have been thinking, now look, Jesus, I've just been listening to you and you're pretty interesting. But you don't know beans about fishing. I've been doing fishing all of my life. Look at the scars in my hands. Look at the sun-baked face that I have. You don't have the experience. You haven't been doing this. How can you possibly know? And we've been fishing all night long. It's the time that you fish. And now you want me to fish in the middle of the day? Nobody does that. And we just finished cleaning up. But there must have been something. There must have been something when he was just listening that Peter's willing to, in essence, dip his toe in the water to follow. And they catch this great amount of fish. And when Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, Go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man. Peter transitions from just someone who was listening, someone who was willing to dip his toe in the water in a relationship with Jesus. And he came out a new man. That's the way it is with all of us. That's the way it is with me and with you. It's time we listen. We may not be a follower. We may be just a listener. Maybe you go to church or you turn on TV and you listen and you say, yeah, yeah. Look around the next time you go to a place of worship. Look at all the people who are sitting there like this. Do you think they're really engaged with God? Do you think they're really listening, saying, please, I want to change? Peter moved from that place and tried it. And Jesus said to Simon, do not be afraid. From now on you will fish for people. So they pulled their boats up on shore and left everything and followed him. You know, this idea that says I'm going to just leap off a cliff for Jesus, I don't know that that happens so very often. With Simon Peter, it was listening, not actively engaged, willing to then dip his toe in the water to try a little something. You see, we need to follow Jesus. We need to turn our lives over to him. Following him is equal to submission. Following him, you think about when you follow someone, you put your face in their back. You are walking behind them. You say, you lead, I will follow. We're all following something. We're all following someone. Who are you following? What leader, what spirituality, what philosophy am I following? If you haven't ever really, and I mean really, taken a look at who Jesus said he was, then you really are just playing with half a deck. You need to really take a look at this, because it talks about Jesus. It says, for in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities. All things have been created through him and for him. Jesus is the cosmic glue that holds together this universe. He's not a good guy. He's the guy who says, I am God. I am worthy to be worshipped. Aren't we looking for somebody like that? Aren't we not looking for a pal, but we're looking for a heavenly, eternal Papa, Daddy, who we can run to and bury our head in when we hurt, or we can rejoice with, or we can say, somebody's beating up on me, somebody's bullying me, would you take care of them? In Ephesians 1, Paul says, in him we were chosen and have been predestined according to the plan of him who works out everything into the conformity of the purpose of his will. We are to have purpose and meaning, he says here. And Jesus is the one who can root us and give us a foundation that doesn't move. Down here in Central Florida, 10 years ago, Hurricane Charlie went through and just ripped this place apart, knocking down lots of things. Trees are knocked down. But you know, there's a lot of things that are still bent. There are telephone poles, there are electric poles, there are trees that are still listing to one side because of the pressure. They were able to withstand it. But I bet a lot of us are getting bent over by the pressure of life, the pressure of friends, the pressure of our culture. And we need a foundation that's not going to move. Psalm 139, David says, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. Don't we want that kind of assurance? If I'm an accident, if all I am is stardust, and that's all I think of myself as made of nuclear waste, then I have there is no purpose in life. Do whatever I want. Doesn't matter. And there's no truth. And there's no need to fight for the right, because there is no right. You see, God saw and planned our lives. He says, I want you to be part of something bigger. I made you for a reason. I made you for a purpose. These are things that give us hope. He has made everything beautiful in its time, King Solomon writes. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from the beginning or the end. God made us beautiful. And the idea of beauty we think of as only exterior. And you go to one of the department stores and they have these women in white coats who want to put makeup on you. It's not like that. Beauty is something deeper. It's something that's appropriate, something that's fitting. It's the difference between a workbench or a workroom that has just totally everything thrown around versus one where everything is put away properly. How hard is it for you to find an email or a file in your computer or on the internet? If it is easy to find, that is one of the ways you could say it's beautiful. But if you can't find it, I don't know where I put it, what folder it's in. God says you and I were made for a purpose that's beautiful. Have you ever met anyone who didn't believe in life, in a life that was eternal, who was just living for the moment, and then something happens to them, some difficult thing, whether it's painful, whether it's a death in their family or a financial crisis? I met a guy once in the back of our place of worship, and he was very successful. He had advanced degrees in many different areas of life. But he had recently gone through a divorce. He had recently gone through an economic tailspin. He had lost his business. And there was so much hurt. There was so much anger in his heart. He came looking. And I could say, well, don't feel bad, or, here's a song. The best thing I could do is to say to him, friend, I sort of understand. And let me tell you, there's only one answer, and he is Jesus. He is the one who came to take us, and so we can reach out and cry, Abba, Daddy, to him. So the question is, there are three options before us. Which one are we going to take? The first one is we need to get close. If we're currently following Jesus, then we need to look more closely. And what does that look like? Looking more closely to Jesus. Secondly, we need to get back. Maybe you've been following Jesus in the past, but at some point maybe you drifted away. Maybe you intentionally turned away. Maybe it's time to get started. Maybe it's time to get started to say, you know what? I don't know where the answers lie. Maybe you're like Peter. Maybe Jesus wants to speak to you, but you're not all that interested. Maybe you need to start just listening. Just let him speak to you. And it can be in the context of work, like it was with Peter on the boat. Maybe it's in the context of finding someone who is spiritually more sort of together and saying, you've been following Jesus for a while. What's it like? You've been following Jesus for a while. Can I talk with you? We all need someone to come alongside of us to encourage us. Jesus came to Peter and sat down in his boat. I bet that Jesus wants to somehow get next to you in a more deep and substantial way. He wants to meet with you, to be a part of your life, to enfold your life, to envelop your life. So where are you on that path? Do we need to get closer? Do we need to get back? Or do we need to get started? All of those places are some place that you fall. We're all in one of those spots. We need to find Jesus, because he's the only one who claimed to have the answers to life. At the end of his life, Buddha said, don't follow me, follow my Dharma, follow my teaching. He says, I am the resurrection and the life. Jesus said about himself. To say those words, you either got to be totally off your nut, or you're delusional and you don't know what's right, or you really are who you claim to be. Jesus clearly understood who he was, clearly spoke it, clearly lived it, and then clearly was raised from the dead as the proof positive that he is God from all eternity, the only one. And he's calling for you to get close, to get back, or to get started. Let me pray. Our Father and our God, I thank you that you want us to get close, to get back, or get started. I thank you that you deal with us individually, and you're right there. You want to be with us and in us, but you're a gentleman and will only go in where you're invited. Thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, thanks again. We'll be continuing this series next week. God bless and bye-bye.